Without a job, I can't even afford to eat. A master's degree earns $420 a month. It's hard to find a job in Beijing or Shanghai. I posted this video because I am really feeling down. After class, I chatted with my classmates and we talked about finding a job in China. Since he felt he couldn't find a good job in China, he wanted to stay in Australia while I just wanted to find a job in Shanghai. However, the competition for autumn recruitment this year may be very fierce. Since August, I have not received any offers, and I haven't even had one interview. Not a single company is willing to interview me, so I am under a lot of pressure right now. I know my family supported me, and they spent a lot of time and money to send me abroad. Now, without even a job, I feel really discouraged. The outside world has noticed that in the current job market, even job seekers in first-tier cities are finding it hard to secure an ideal job. Therefore, today's graduates are increasingly focusing on second-tier cities, and this trend is becoming more and more apparent. Moreover, the influx of highly educated talent has worsened the involution phenomenon in the job market, with the number of college graduates exceeding 11.79 million in 2024. The pressure on the job market has become unprecedented. Hello, friends. Let me share a secret. My salary in October will probably be less than 3,000 yuan, about $420. I graduated with a master's degree in engineering in 2023. So I sincerely advise younger students, if you graduate and are eligible to take the selection and transfer exam, do take it. If you can't pass that exam, consider positions as civil servants, career positions, counselors, etc. If you just aim to work in a company, it's truly the worst option among the worst. After working for half a month, I finally got paid. Let me show you how much it is. Some people think my salary is fake. They say, "You work so many hours a day. How can your salary be so low?" So, I've included a screenshot here for you to see. I started working on August 19th and worked for about 12 days. We had a 1-week training period at that time. During this week, if you were eliminated, you would only be paid 100 yuan per day. In June this year, 24-year-old Chang Hua graduated from a second-tier university in Qingdao. Coming from a remote village in Panzihua, Sichuan, she always wanted to go a little further and escape the closed-off mountain life. To pursue this, she began learning painting in junior high school and passed the art exam to become an artist, which forced her parents to borrow money everywhere. In 2020, Chang Hua was admitted to university as she had hoped, and for the first time, she left her hometown and came to Qingdao. Initially, she chose environmental design as her major, hoping it would lead to better job prospects after graduation. But when she graduated, the industry was in a downturn. Last year, she attempted to get into Sichuan Normal University as a graduate student but failed, which was a major blow for her. While resting at home, she accidentally saw a blogger's video mentioning a woman who couldn't find a job after graduation and chose cleaning. At first, Changhua was surprised, but after looking up more information online, she found that more and more college graduates were taking on cleaning work. After her graduation defense, she brought her luggage to Hangzhou and found a job as a cleaner a few days later. She said that although the job was hard, it allowed her to afford rent and living expenses, and it also helped relieve the insomnia and stress caused by her failed postgraduate entrance exam. Besides work, she could also arrange some time for herself. When her brother learned that Changhua was doing cleaning, he was very puzzled and asked her, "If you wanted to be a cleaner, what was the point of going to college?" She chose to remain silent. Some people online questioned if Changhua was taking jobs from women over 45, but some bloggers supported her, believing it's not shameful to earn a living through work. Others pointed out that, given the current employment pressures, many graduates from prestigious schools and even postgraduates are taking up simple labor such as housekeeping, security, and delivery services. Many netizens also expressed their frustration with the current employment situation. It's really difficult for environmental design graduates to find jobs. The current employment environment isn't great, and it's better to find work than to stay at home with no income. She's self-reliant and deserves respect. Many people noted that, in light of a challenging job market, survival is the primary concern. There is also data showing that nearly 14% of students start looking for jobs in their junior year, making it normal to prepare early and build job hunting experience. Actually, I don't want to promote anxiety, but I am genuinely anxious. From the beginning of college, I knew I didn't want to take the postgraduate entrance exam or the civil service exam, so I aimed to find a job. I started interning in my freshman year. Basically, except for classes, I was working. I worked in new media operations, directed variety shows, and interned at NetEase Cloud Music, working on business tasks. This way, I personally feel my experience is quite rich, and it has helped me build valuable experience and connections. I thought that with all this, I would at least secure a good job after graduation, if not an exceptional one. But unfortunately, many people are saying that the overall economic environment isn't good this year and that it's tough to make money. And it's true. But I didn't expect that after working so hard for 4 years in college, moving to 4 or 5 cities a year, balancing internships and studies, staying up so many nights to compete and complete projects, and dedicating time and energy to charity, I would still be earning a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan after graduation. No different than when I was an intern. Economic recovery seems hopeless, and well-known foreign companies have reduced their business in China. Recently, the Chinese Communist Party has introduced a number of economic stimulus policies, hoping to boost consumption, stabilize the housing market, attract foreign investment, and reverse the bleak economic situation. However, China's economy continues to be sluggish, prompting foreign companies to adjust their operating strategies and reduce their business activities in the country. On October 28th, Reuters reported that major companies such as Hermes, L'Oreal, Coca-Cola, and United Airlines announced that, due to the unresolved real estate crisis and high youth unemployment rates, consumer spending in China continued to decline. As a result, these companies decided to adjust their strategies by cutting prices, reducing costs, and scaling back their business activities in China. Recently, French carbon graphite manufacturer Mersen announced it would close a factory in China. International food companies Danone and Nestlé have increased price cuts to boost sales through online shopping. Coca-Cola CEO James Quincey mentioned in a financial report conference call that the operating environment in China remains challenging. Coca-Cola released its financial report on the 23rd, indicating that its revenue in the third quarter of 2024 exceeded $11.8 billion, a year-on-year decrease of 1%, while its net profit exceeded $2.8 billion, a year-on-year decline of 7.8%. Analysts pointed out that these large companies are currently only tentatively adjusting their strategies in China. Journalist Wang He said, "The Chinese environment has become a vortex, exposing significant risks. One policy recommended by Wall Street is to avoid investing in China altogether. Regardless of how cheap assets may be, investors are hesitant. These large companies have heavily invested in China and taken root here, but the problem is that the market has become increasingly inhospitable. They are now at a crossroads, wondering if they can survive or if they should withdraw quickly." Recently, the CCP has launched a series of stimulus measures to support the economy, aiming to attract foreign investment, boost consumption, stabilize the housing market, and resolve the local debt crisis. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, released its World Economic Outlook on the 23rd, lowering its forecast for China's economic growth and warning that the housing market crisis may worsen, posing significant risks to economic growth. American economist David J. Wong remarked, "As the Chinese government has introduced a series of economic stimulus policies to attract foreign investment, multinational companies are adjusting their strategies in China. This change reflects the complexities of the Chinese market and the impact of the global economic and political environment on foreign investment. Although China's economic stimulus policies have aimed to restore growth, the problem of weak domestic demand remains severe. Recent data show that China's economy continues to struggle, with increasing deflationary pressure, slowing export growth, and sluggish loan demand. In September, profits for industrial enterprises fell by 27.1%.
In recent years, we have heard voices saying, "The factories are in trouble," and "The factories are going to fail." The phenomenon of factories going bankrupt and closing down is happening in many places in the mainland. As consumers, we can sense the intense low-price competition among e-commerce platforms. What kind of situation are factories, as the front line of production, facing now? In August and September of this year, we visited dozens of source factories in Zhuji, Zhejiang, and Yishui, Shandong. These two places, one in the south and one in the north, are both among China's top 100 counties. Their most prominent local industries are two highly representative light industries, the traditional textile industry and the food processing industry. For example, manufacturers in Jiangsu and Zhejiang were usually affected by e-commerce earlier, leading them to enter e-commerce first and then open factories. Meanwhile, Shandong entered e-commerce later, and for them, entering e-commerce was more of a reluctant move. The common point is that both Zhuji and Yishui have been impacted by the low-price era, making them microcosms of Chinese factories' struggles for survival. For factory owners, the factory is their lifeline. At a food factory in Yishui, a boss said, "Running a business means investing your whole life. It's like swimming in the water. When the water rises, you're betting your life. Once you fail, you lose everything, and no one will cover for you." The factory can't afford to turn on the air conditioning. Driving through the streets of Zhuji, Zhejiang, we saw shuttered shop fronts and empty streets under the sweltering August sun. Under the subtropical high-pressure belt, the outdoor temperature reached nearly 40 degrees Celsius. Yet, when the factory door opened, a wave of stifling air hit us. This sock factory is located in a building, with each floor housing an independent factory. Climbing the external staircase, the steel structure creaked with each step as if about to collapse. Ducking through a small doorway, we entered a 500-square-meter space on the third floor, packed with spinning machines, 14 machines per group, a total of 5 groups, or 70 machines in all, with a warehouse and the boss's office squeezed in. Typically, 5 people would operate the spinning machines, but now only 1 worker remains. Most of the machines have stopped. The lone worker, shirtless and sweating, wore headphones around his neck, though nothing was playing in them, likely to block out the machine's rumbling noise. This sock factory doesn't use air conditioning because it can't afford to. The cooler temperature affects sock shaping, but financially, it's also unviable. Huang Xiong, the factory owner, explained, "I can earn at most 30 yuan, and at least 15 yuan per machine daily. With 30 machines running, that's less than 500 yuan. The electricity bill for air conditioning in this large space would exceed 300 yuan daily, so I don't dare turn it on." Huang Xiong told us that demand for autumn socks usually rises after mid-August, but this year, the factory has been in a semi-shutdown for nearly a month and a half. Zhuji is a county-level city under Shaoxing's jurisdiction, with a well-developed sock industry. If you go to the wrong building, you'll still find sock manufacturers, locals say. Zhuji produces 25 billion pairs of socks annually, accounting for 70% of the national market, with 1/3 of the world's socks coming from here. But this year, nearly every factory is clearing out inventory, and no owner dares to stock up. Some have hundreds of thousands, or even millions of pairs of socks in storage. In past years, they could sell 1,000 to 2,000 orders daily. But in recent years, even 1,000 would be a good day. New styles are increasingly difficult to sell. Before, 5 or 6 out of 10 styles would sell. Now, it's just 1 or 2, with the rest unsold. Profits are thinning. According to Sock War, the growth history of the Tang Dynasty, Sock Industry, published in 2008, the gross profit on a pair of socks was about 1.2 yuan. Today, earning 5 cents is considered a big profit. High-end socks, which once offered around 10% profit, now yield only 2 to 3%, or even less than 1%. Huang Xiong is not an isolated case. We heard similar stories across the industrial belts we visited in Zhejiang and Shandong. "This year is like falling off a cliff," said the owner of a food factory in Yishui, Shandong. Previously, factories operated 27 to 28 days a month, sometimes with night shifts, but now they often run only 7 to 8 days. There seems to be only one solution. You can only cut costs from every angle, one boss explained. Costs of labor, utilities, raw materials, and operations must all be reduced. Business is going backwards. Chinese factories are struggling to compete. Local merchants and factory owners in Juji have noticed that e-commerce platforms have turned into a low-price battle royale. Factories now operate on a simple principle: minimize costs and profits to offer socks at rock-bottom prices. How low are the profits? 1 cent is earned per step, says Wang Kai, who runs a typical low-end volume factory. She earns 1 cent for turning the socks, another for sewing the toes, making 5 cents per pair. Yet, if volume is large, say 30 million pairs annually, it adds up to a reasonable income of 1.5 million yen. In the early 2010s, pure cotton socks became popular for their breathability and comfort. However, with cotton costs pushing the price of each pair above 1 yuan, polyester, a cheaper but less comfortable alternative, has resurged. Polyester socks are now in high demand locally, with shipments several times higher than those of cotton socks. Save the factory. Chinese factories are struggling to compete. Zhou Xin, a children's socks factory owner, despises polyester socks, which he calls garbage socks. He blames polyester for shrinking demand for his cotton socks, seeing it as a case of bad money driving out good money and disrupting the market. To demonstrate, he once recorded a video of polyester socks burning for customers to see, contrasting their stench of burning plastic with the smell of paper from cotton. Meanwhile, imitation and copycat tactics are rampant. Manufacturers rush to produce the most popular online designs, but quality varies significantly even among identical-looking items. Socks have no copyright, locals say, except for Disney or other strictly regulated IPs. Different qualities for the same product. Zhao Zhendong, a supply factory owner, explained, "For each product, we offer at least 2 to 4 quality grades. This allows him to cater to different price points." He noted that polyester socks are his staple for large orders, while he only produces cotton socks upon request. In contrast, Zhou Xin refuses to make polyester socks, not only for moral reasons, but because he believes internal circulation has no end. "You're never the lowest. There will always be someone cheaper," he says. Socks weight, thread count, needle density, and labor costs are continually reduced in this cost-cutting race. Industrial upgrading has stalled. Business owners like Zhou Xin had initially hoped industrial upgrading would help them improve product quality and competitiveness. After 2010, Datang socks began differentiating into fashion, business, and sports styles, with computer machines enabling intricate patterns at the press of a button. In 2014, the government phased out small, 3-in-1 factories and coal-fired boilers to promote safer and more efficient operations. But now, factories face extinction due to a lack of funds and energy for upgrades, with little left for transformation. The world's factory is deserted and in ruins. The prosperous scene is a thing of the past. Why is it so desolate now, with not even one person around? Logically speaking, Dongguan, known as the world's factory, should be bustling with people. Why is it so empty? Dongguan, China, known as the world's factory, is facing an increasingly depressed economy. Many factories and shops have closed. Walking down the streets of Dongguan, you see vacant shops everywhere, each with a "for rent" notice. Mr. Wang, a supermarket owner, told reporters that business has been bad and he is losing money every day. His store's operating income is 70% lower than it was at its peak in 2007 and 2008. Life is very difficult now. Many factories in Dongguan are struggling to get orders. They either go bankrupt or downsize, replacing large factories with smaller ones. A netizen named Lang Zihua posted a video on Douyin showing many closed stores in Dongguan. In the video, he says, "This is Lin Village, Tangxia Town, Dongguan. Many stores are for rent, and so many are closed. Even a restaurant here is looking for a new place to rent. Everything inside, including the second floor, has been cleared out. Many stores are closed. Across from here is the Jindi Qianbaihui Business Center. Why are these shops closing? Why is there no business in such a prime location? There's still a tea shop holding on, but the barbecue restaurant and hardware store are also looking for a place to rent. It's happening everywhere. Even the foot massage pavilion is looking for a place to rent. Rows of stores are closed. Business is just too tough. You see, on this street of 100 or 200 meters, there are dozens of stores looking for a new location. There's hardly anyone on the streets. How can this be? Even this milk tea shop has closed and is looking for a new location. Business is so difficult. There's an industrial zone nearby, so there should be many factory workers to support these businesses. But I don't understand why this is happening. In the video, he also mentions a factory in Huizhou that produces gift boxes. Many people came from Dongguan, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen to apply for jobs. The factory started interviews at 1:30 p.m. Apparently, the factory received a large batch of orders and was short-staffed, so they needed to hire many workers. They offered a high wage of 17 yuan per hour, with an 11-hour workday earning 187 yuan daily. Unexpectedly, 400 or 500 people arrived at once, blocking the road outside the factory gate so cars couldn't pass. This factory isn't very large and doesn't need that many people. The boss was stunned. The supervisor said they would train the workers first, and if they still wanted the job after training, they could stay. If not, they could leave. He explained that the production demands are high, and if tasks aren't completed, workers would have to stay and work overtime without additional pay. Moreover, if they didn't meet their production targets within the first 3 days, they wouldn't be paid at all if they decided to leave. Not only is it difficult for workers without academic qualifications to find jobs, but even college graduates are struggling to secure employment. A netizen posted a video saying she met a college graduate who had come to Dongguan to look for a job. In the video, she says, "It's so hard to find a job. I've been searching for several months. I came here from Shaoguan by myself, and I don't have a place to stay. I tried to find housing, but rent is too expensive, so I've had to stay with friends occasionally. I haven't found a job and the expenses are piling up. I don't have a choice but to keep trying my luck. If I don't find a job, how can I afford to live?" Because so many factories have closed and workers have left, even Dongguan's catering industry has been severely impacted, with many restaurants shutting down. A Douyin user, Li Xingje #1, posted a video saying that business has been bad this year. He saw a restaurant in Hojie Town, Dongguan, which closed down after only 2 months of operation. He mentions a Hakka restaurant that had been running for over 10 years with good business, about 300 meters away from a newly opened Liaoxiang restaurant, also a Hakka restaurant. The owner of the new restaurant likely opened it because they saw the success of the older one, but unfortunately, they ended up losing a lot of money. Now, no one visits restaurants to eat. In the first half of this year, more than 1 million restaurants in mainland China shut down, resulting in a surge in business for catering corpse collectors who recycle restaurant equipment. Dongguan, once a globally renowned manufacturing hub, had many giant companies, some employing tens of thousands of workers, while others had over 100,000. One such large enterprise was Yueyuan Shoe Factory. Yueyuan Shoe Factory is a subsidiary of Taiwan's Puchen Group, specializing in producing high-end brand sports shoes, including Adidas, Nike, and New Balance. The factory had 2 parks in Dongguan, one in Gaobu Town and the other in Huangjiang Town, with each employing more than 100,000 workers. The total number of employees across both parks exceeded 300,000. At the time, due to the large number of employees, the Yueyuan Shoe Factory had to organize lunch shifts in the canteen every day. After work, it would take more than 10 minutes just for all the employees to exit the factory. To maintain employee morale, Yueyuan Shoe Factory not only provided food and accommodation, but also operated kindergartens and schools for workers' children. Additionally, it had its own hospital, cinema, and fire brigade. In its heyday, Yueyuan occupied half of Gaobu town, and its total export value accounted for 50% of the town's economy. In 2007, the factory's annual output value reached billions of US dollars. However, in recent years, due to the sharp rise in labor costs, energy prices, and taxes in China, Yueyuan gradually withdrew from Dongguan and began moving its operations to Vietnam in 2012. The once massive factory and dormitory buildings at the Yueyuan Park in Gaobu town have since been abandoned, standing empty for years, evoking a sense of loss and nostalgia. In the video, she says, "This is the Yueyuan shoe factory in Gaobu town, Dongguan City. You can see how desolate it looks now, but back then it was the world's largest shoe manufacturing factory. At its peak, it employed 300,000 people. You can imagine how prosperous it was. I've heard that during shift changes, countless workers entered and exited the factory, creating a spectacular scene. The nearby night market was always packed. Every day, there was an endless line of people queuing up for interviews at the factory gate." Look at how many workers in Kunshan's Boyu Computer City are unable to find jobs. This reflects the current market situation. China's economy is in serious recession, and profit margins for CCP officials are also shrinking. Consequently, the CCP's vegetable cutting sickle has expanded to target Taiwanese businesses and foreign capital. Recently, CCP police detained 4 Taiwanese executives working at Foxconn in Zhengzhou on charges of unofficial bribery. Foxconn, a subsidiary of Taiwan's Honhai Group, is Apple's main supplier. The Foxconn incident is just the tip of the iceberg. China currently faces not only severe economic risks, but also high political and legal risks. Many Taiwanese business owners have seen the writing on the wall and have moved their companies out of Zhengzhou, Kunshan, and other locations. Today, we'll discuss Taiwanese businesses leaving China. Since January this year, these 4 executives have been unable to return to Taiwan for over 9 months. 2 of them were accused of misappropriating funds because no bribery evidence could be found. Initially, the 4 executives were placed under residential surveillance at designated locations for 3 to 6 months before being formally identified as suspects. They have now been detained in a detention center for over 3 months. While in detention, one older executive was forced to remain in the same posture during residential surveillance, resulting in muscle atrophy. He has been unable to receive proper medical care. A Foxconn employee in China revealed to the family of one Taiwanese executive that the entire case was fabricated by local authorities and CCP police as a means of profiting. It remains unclear what exactly led to their arrest. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, citing Foxconn's statement, said these employees did not harm the company's interests. The company did not report any case to CCP Public Security, and the accusations are strange. In a statement, the Mainland Affairs Council pointed out that this incident may stem from power abuse by some local public security forces, seriously damaging the company's confidence. They urged the CCP to investigate and resolve this matter promptly. Currently, Foxconn has 28 major factories worldwide, with 7 located in China. The Zhengzhou factory operates the world's largest Apple assembly plant, known as Apple City. At its peak, the Zhengzhou factory employed 350,000 workers. In 2016, it produced 258 million smartphones, half of which were Apple devices. In the first quarter of this year, with Foxconn's partial withdrawal, Henan's mobile phone exports dropped 61% year-on-year, and total exports fell 23%. This highlights Foxconn's significance to Zhengzhou. Zhengzhou Foxconn, the the world's largest Apple production base, produces around 80% of iPhones globally each year. In terms of foreign trade, Zhengzhou Foxconn has held the top spot in Henan since its establishment. Its cumulative import and export value has accounted for around 60% of Henan province and 80% of Zhengzhou. In the first 3 quarters of 2022, Henan achieved a foreign trade import and export value of over 620 billion yuan, holding the top position in the central region for 10 consecutive years, thanks largely to Zhengzhou Foxconn's contributions. Regarding employment, Henan, with its large population, has a low college admission rate, which creates a surplus of low-skilled workers. Foxconn has provided hundreds of thousands of jobs in Henan. Additionally, Foxconn has spurred the development of upstream and downstream industries. Preliminary estimates suggest Foxconn has created over 1 million jobs in Henan, supporting an equal number of families. What other company could fill a gap this vast? Some online critics argue that Foxconn's wages are low. But is that so significant? This is actually a misconception. Overall, Foxconn's wages are above the average for factory workers, with regular employees earning around 4,000 to 5,000 yuan monthly, which rises to 7,000 to 8,000 yuan with bonuses during peak seasons. Foxconn's impact goes beyond exports. These visible figures only scratch the surface. Foxconn has enhanced Zhengzhou's industrial infrastructure, particularly in electronics, thanks to its strong influence. The Pearl River Delta and Yangtze River Delta regions are stable due to their solid industrial bases. Foxconn's arrival in Zhengzhou has attracted supporting industries, which have continued to take root, creating an invisible yet significant ripple effect that's hard to quantify. Since the new iPhone 16 was pre-sold on September 13th and officially released on September 20th, Foxconn, which had once scaled back its operations in China, has become active in the mainland market again. In April, it began recruiting workers in Zhengzhou with high salaries, attracting many young applicants. Since late July, Foxconn has increased its hourly wages from 21 yuan in June to 26 yuan, and the bonus for 90 days of employment has risen from 5,000 yuan to over 8,000 yuan. Long queues of applicants can be seen daily outside Foxconn's Zhengzhou Science and Technology Park, with a 90% acceptance rate for applicants. Their main role is to assemble Apple mobile phone parts. Since Foxconn has low technical entry requirements, a high interview pass rate, and high employment rates, many college graduates who struggle to find jobs in their fields are now joining the assembly line. Some say young people would rather deliver food than work in a factory, but Foxconn has proven otherwise. It's not that young people don't want to work in factories. Rather, it's that other factories offer salaries that are too low. Zhengzhou Foxconn can recruit 50,000 people in 2 weeks for one main reason. The pay is good, with 25 yuan per hour, totaling 200 yuan per day for an 8-hour shift. Overtime pay is separate, with 1.5 times the rate for regular overtime and twice the rate for holiday overtime. After 3 months, workers can also earn a one-time bonus of 7,500 yuan. Additionally, Foxconn offers decent benefits, with guaranteed wages, social security, and no withheld earnings. I would say these conditions are better than 90% of factories in China. But then, why did Foxconn, which wanted to leave the mainland completely a few years ago, suddenly change its mind and come back? Today, let's discuss some of the reasons. We know Foxconn uses a flexible employment model, meaning that when Apple places large orders, Foxconn quickly recruits workers, just like now, hiring 50,000 people in 2 weeks. This indicates that Apple has placed significant orders, and Foxconn must deliver quickly to meet Apple's sales season. Regarding Foxconn's return to China, some Chinese media and Little Pinks mockingly say it's because Vietnam and India's technology can't match China's, implying Foxconn had to return in disgrace. However, analysts suggest that returning to Zhengzhou is likely only part of Foxconn's global strategy to diversify risk, not a sign of optimism about China's investment climate. Foxconn's decision to resume Apple mobile phone production in Zhengzhou allows it to avoid putting all its eggs in one basket for product quality and compare the manufacturing yields of China and India, fostering competition. This is similar to Apple using TSMC and Samsung chips in the past to compare yield rates. Foxconn has invested in India for years and is setting up its R&D and operations headquarters. It has planned at least 3 joint ventures with Indian companies to enter semiconductor manufacturing, so returning to Zhengzhou is likely just one part of Foxconn's global layout. The unemployment rate among college graduates in China is high. Getting a job, even in a factory, is better than none, especially when Foxconn's pay is decent. Have you noticed how college degrees seem to hold less value now, with many graduates working assembly lines? Some new graduates search for jobs endlessly, but end up taking factory positions as a last resort. This is the reality of today's job market. Survival comes first. Foxconn's recent expansions in Vietnam and India have greatly impacted Henan's imports and exports. As U.S.-China economic tensions rise, the supply chain is shifting away from China, with many Taiwanese and foreign companies choosing to leave. Kunshan, a district under Suzhou in Jiangsu Province, has been heavily affected. Kunshan, often called Little Taipei, is one of the top areas in China for Taiwanese investment. Taiwanese companies contribute 30% of Kunshan's GDP, transforming it from a small agricultural county to China's strongest prefecture-level city. As of 2020, more than 5,300 Taiwanese companies and about 100,000 Taiwanese people had settled in Kunshan, but this is now changing. Taiwanese media reported that a third of Taiwanese business owners have left Suzhou, and the remaining 2/3 have transferred part of their production. In response, the Taiwan Affairs Office of the CCP dismissed this report as untrue. However, a Taiwanese businessman named Chen said, "Some factories are still there, but the bosses are gone." 30 years ago, Beijing's reform and opening up policies attracted a large influx of Taiwanese businesses to the mainland with low production costs. But as U.S.-China tensions escalate and China's labor and land costs rise, along with higher taxes, many Taiwanese business owners are choosing to leave Kunshan. Today, formerly bustling streets are now lined with closed shops or transfer notices. It is said that Kunshan may lose nearly 1 million people by 2024, a staggering figure, equating to almost a third of its population. Renmin Road, once crowded with people, now looks deserted. Many shops are up for transfer. This trend is concerning because our industry relies on population density. The more people there are, the stronger the economy, and naturally, more people would invest in renovating their homes. China's economic downturn disaster. Economic problems will inevitably lead to political instability. In recent years, the Chinese economy has faced a wave of recession across all sectors, especially due to sharp fluctuations in the real estate market and the anti-impoverishment trend of the middle class. These economic phenomena not only affect the accumulation of personal wealth, but also profoundly change the social structure and the government's policy direction. Mingju Zheng, Professor Emeritus of the Department of Political Science at National Taiwan University, revealed the root causes of this series of problems through an in-depth analysis of China's current economic difficulties and offered important insights into their future political and social impact. He explored the nature of China's economic problems and their impact on future development from 4 main aspects: the real estate market crisis, the shift in economic policies, the influence of the external environment, and social unrest and political implications. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Fund, pointed out 7 major concerns when analyzing the Chinese economy. Real estate market crisis. China's real estate market is experiencing falling prices and overdevelopment, putting family wealth that relies heavily on real estate at huge risk. Government fiscal dilemma. Local government finances rely on land transfer fees and real estate income. The sluggish real estate market has exacerbated local fiscal pressures. Changes in the concept of getting rich is glorious. Deng Xiaoping's concept of getting rich is glorious has gradually weakened and been replaced by the common prosperity policy, which has suppressed market vitality. Unstable property rights protection. Insufficient protection of property rights has made entrepreneurs and investors lack confidence in the future economic environment, resulting in a decline in their willingness to invest. Dilemma of technological innovation. Although China has outstanding performance in the number of patents, it struggles to market innovative results, and excessive government intervention has limited the economic benefits of technological innovation. Long-term stagnation risk. China's current economic predicament is similar to the lost 30 years that followed the bursting of the Japanese economic bubble in the 1990s, facing the risk of long-term stagnation. Unclear prospects for foreign investment. While investing in China still yields returns, investors need to be more cautious. Foreign investment confidence in the Chinese market has begun to decline, necessitating an appropriate adjustment in the investment ratio. Real estate market crisis and the anti-impoverishment of the middle class. Ming Zhuzheng stated in the YouTube program, Political and Economic Frontline, that China's real estate market was once the engine of economic growth, but its decline in recent years has put many investors and the middle class in jeopardy. Real estate prices rose sharply for a time, causing many families to invest most of their wealth in real estate. However, as the real estate bubble burst, housing prices began to fall, prompting many local governments to introduce policies restricting the sale of real estate. Owners cannot mitigate losses by selling properties and still need to continue repaying their loans. This restriction on sales may stabilize the market in the short term, but in the long run, it greatly suppresses the normal operation of the market and distorts the supply-demand relationship. The middle class is the primary force in the consumer market, and their financial pressure directly affects the consumption capacity of the entire economy. When housing prices fall, assets shrink, and wages decline or even unemployment occurs, many middle-class individuals are compelled to cut back on their daily expenses. Ming Zhuzheng pointed out that if this phenomenon continues to develop, it will lead to widespread impoverishment of the middle class and a regression of social classes. The middle class, originally a stabilizing factor in the economy, will see increased social contradictions and dissatisfaction as their wealth diminishes significantly and their quality of life declines sharply. The financial difficulties of local governments have further exacerbated the crisis in the real estate market. Previously, local governments relied on land transfer fees as a primary source of fiscal revenue. However, with the sluggish real estate market, land sales have become more challenging, leading to a significant drop in local fiscal revenue. This not only affects the daily operations of local governments, but also limits their capacity to promote economic development. To maintain fiscal revenue, local governments often choose to further develop real estate projects, creating a vicious cycle. Additionally, the problem of excessive infrastructure construction has come to the forefront. In recent years, China has built a large number of high-speed railways, airports, and other infrastructure. While this has temporarily boosted GDP, many projects have not yielded actual economic benefits, resulting in a plethora of idle mosquito stations. This overinvestment and ineffective construction have burdened local governments with heavy debts, further exacerbating their fiscal dilemmas. The change in the concept of getting rich is glorious, and the lack of property rights protection. The concept of getting rich is glorious, proposed during the Deng Xiaoping era, once propelled Chinese society towards marketization and modernization, encouraging individual entrepreneurship and wealth accumulation. However, this concept has gradually weakened in recent years, and the common prosperity policy introduced by the Xi Jinping government has placed greater emphasis on the redistribution of social wealth. Although this policy aims to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor, it has also raised concerns about the decline in market vitality. Ming Zhuzheng emphasized that property rights protection is one of the foundations for promoting economic development. In a market economy, entrepreneurs and investors need clear property rights protection to ensure that their wealth and investments are not threatened by arbitrary policy changes or government intervention. However, in China, the lack of property rights protection has caused many entrepreneurs to lose confidence in the future economic environment. Frequent government intervention in private enterprises, especially in terms of taxation and supervision, has further dampened enterprise enthusiasm. In recent years, many successful entrepreneurs and company executives have chosen to transfer their assets overseas to avoid the increasingly harsh economic environment in China. This trend has not only weakened China's domestic innovation and competitiveness, but also made economic growth face greater uncertainty. In addition, the government's excessive intervention in the field of science and technology has also put innovative enterprises under great pressure. Although the number of patents in China has increased year by year, the proportion of these patents that can be converted into actual economic results is relatively low. This phenomenon reflects that the policy orientation of excessive pursuit of quantity and neglect of market demand has hindered the role of scientific and technological innovation in driving the economy.